some of the best advice and guidance around how to practice meditation comes from the Buddha's descriptions on what's called the first jhana. So, on the Buddhist path of developing the heart, the mind, the aspect of your being that feels, on that progressive path that leads us towards awakening or freedom from suffering, there are many steps along the way. There are many qualities that we're asked to develop or we're encouraged to develop. And along that path, the mind can gather itself, can gather its strength, and essentially step into beautiful experiences, beautiful realms or territories of experience called the jhanas. And these are very profound. They're like super normal kind of, again, territories of experience that are characterized by well-being, by pleasure, by bliss, by safety, peace, and so on. And most practitioners of meditation, whether they're beginners or intermediate, even advanced meditators who've been practicing for many years, may not have experienced the first jhana. I would say most human beings have not, experienced in a mature manner at least the first jhana. That being said, I believe that we all have a capacity for this. It's not due to inability that human beings don't get to what's called the first jhana. So we are all capable. In fact, I think it's natural for a human being to access this. This is part of our birthright. And so the reason I start here is that if you haven't gotten to such an experience that is so blissful, in which the heart is composed, sheltered from pain, and in which we can skillfully access this and stay in this. If you're not able to abide in a territory of experience that is pleasurable and peaceful and not dependent on external circumstances, not dependent on the senses, then it's very, very worthwhile to learn about the first jhana and to model your meditation practice in a way that is aligned with the Buddha's teachings on this topic. In fact, even when you're not formally meditating, you can use what the Buddha says on this topic as a way to better enjoy and be more effective in social situations, in work situations, in playing sports, in cooking, in cleaning, in just about anything. Okay, so let's dive in. With regards to the first jhana, the Buddha teaches what are called the 5 factors of the first jhana. So these are sort of like qualities that are present in the first jhana. And the way I'm going to teach this is just one way of teaching this, okay? But it's one that I have a lot of confidence in. It's coming from my own personal practice, but of course it's coming from the Buddha, and I think it'll really help you. Okay, so we can look at 3 qualities in the 3 of the 5 factors of the first jhana as sort of causal conditions. Okay, so we can focus on these 3. If you just develop these 3 qualities, it's going to change your life. It's going to change the way you perceive the world. So these first 3 that I want to mention are vitakka, vicara, and ekaggata. Okay, these are Pali words. Vitakka, vicara, ekaggata. So vitakka is defined as directive thinking. Okay, it's directing the mind, inclining the mind. Vicara is evaluative thinking. It's like a feeling thinking. It's sensing, tasting, experiencing, feeling. And ekaggata is, I would define it as one meeting place. Another definition I like from Thanissaro Bhikkhu is singleness of preoccupation. It's a single meeting place, a single location. All right? So, what does this mean for someone who's looking to practice meditation? So, the first thing that we're doing is vitakka. We're directing the mind. And in tandem, we are evaluating or feeling. So you can think of this also as if there's a movie director on set, right? He or she has their camera and they're directing the actors, telling the actors to do a certain thing. They've come up with a set, right? They've gotten the lighting at a certain place. They have the audio settings at a certain different levels, and then they're saying action, right? So they've adjusted a bunch of stuff and they're directing, and then they look on the camera and they evaluate what's going on. Do I like the way the actor is performing? Do I like the way the lighting is? Am I getting the right audio? And so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of how vitakka and vicara work together. With regards to meditation, we can think of this of, let's say we're directing the awareness, the attention into the body. The body is here and now. So the mind's wandering all over, and that's totally natural, right? But when we remember, we're willfully, deliberately directing the mind here, now, into the body. And so that's vitakka. And then vicara comes into play where we're feeling the body. How does the body feel? What is the quality of awareness? So this is that evaluating, sensing. And so when these two come together, what we're doing is we're adjusting our experience and we're looking to refine our experience. How can we make the body feel well? And I'm using the body here, which is one of the foundations of mindfulness that's taught. And I think it's very helpful to take the whole body. And I'll actually read one of the Buddha's descriptions of the first jhana in a little bit. That'll help you understand why. But we can think of it as the body is sort of mirroring the mind. You might notice this when you get really angry. All kinds of stuff is going on in the body. There's usually heat. There's a sense of intensity. Even your visual field changes. When the heart is inflicted by fear, anxiety, depression, all these different sort of negative qualities, that has an effect on the body that we can be aware of, that we can awaken to. And in the same way, positive qualities, things like peace and joy, there's so many that I want to get into that in a little bit, but any positive quality will also be mirrored in the body. So this is vitakka and vicara. We're directing and evaluating. Another image that I like for this is of a hawk flapping its wings. If you watch a hawk, it'll flap its wings, right? And then it'll glide. It'll sort of pick up a current, glide for a bit, and then again, it'll flap its wings and then glide. It's sort of like if you're riding a bicycle, you might pedal hard, and then you get some momentum, and then you can kind of stop pedaling and just sort of glide. So the vitakka is the pedaling or the flapping of the wings. It's this work of directing the mind. And then the vicara is the gliding. It's the feeling. Another word I want to add to this that I wouldn't say I've ever heard it being defined as or translated as an element of vicara, but I think it's there. And this word is enjoying. Enjoying. This is very, very, very important in meditation. Where we're learning to fabricate enjoyment. An enjoyment that is not dependent on anything external. In a way, this is the whole point. Okay? Because we If you're here and if you're heedful to the Buddha's teachings, there's this understanding that this world is full of uncertain elements and conditions that are constantly changing. And there's things that we like and things that we don't like, and we're bumping into both of them all the time. And so it's very unstable. But in meditation, we learn how to find a different happiness, a different enjoyment that isn't dependent on the conditions of the world so much. That's not coming from out there. It's coming from the heart. And that makes it reliable. It makes it lasting. It's a different fuel for life. Okay? So that's vitakka and vicara. And I would say, to translate these two into steps in meditation, find your way to a comfortable posture. Direct the mind in a certain direction. You can direct the mind into the body. Direct the mind towards peace, towards joy, towards gratitude, towards delighting in this present moment. Direct the mind away from clinging, away from liking and disliking, away from rigidity. Direct the mind away from efforting too hard or efforting too little. There's so many different ways we want to adjust and direct the mind. And how do you know which way to go? Yes, you can listen to the Dhamma talks like this one, and you can read and try to, but the real practice is to try different things and then to bring in vicara, evaluating, feeling what feels good. And if you practice meditation 2 times, you'll see that what worked the first time doesn't work the second time. Right? So this is a practice that it has to be alive and flexible and playful and pliant. Okay, now the third factor here that we're talking about is ekaggata. So I think of this as ekaggata in Pali. So eka means one, gata means meeting place or location, destination. So there's gathas, like you'll see in the Pali Canon, there'll be a meeting place for monks, like a mealtime meeting place, where all the monks gather there to eat. So this is a good way to think about it. What we're doing here in terms of this factor of ekaggata is where we're coming into one. There's a singleness of preoccupation, so the mind and the energy isn't scattered all out there in the past and the future and in this thing and that thing, and location wise, the mind isn't there or back there. We're coming into one. We're coming into one, gathering, collecting. So again, let's take the body. I think for most people, this is going to be the way to practice. Take the whole body. Gather your energy. Come into one. And yes, the mind is going to wander. Don't judge yourself. If you judge yourself, you have vicara, you'll be able to feel that it doesn't feel good to judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. When the mind wanders, the mind is conditioned to wander. As Bhante Dhammajiva says, who's an amazing monk from Sri Lanka, it's not your fault when the mind wanders. This is just conditioned activity. You're innocent. So don't worry about it. The mind wanders. Just when you notice, direct the mind back. Come back to that one meeting place of the body here and now. And so what you'll notice when you do this is it starts to gather momentum. You're directing and then feeling. Directing, feeling. Directing back to this one meeting place. Feeling, how does it feel to be here? Then the mind wanders. Then again, you direct. Back here. Feeling. Then the mind wanders. Then again, you direct it back. You keep doing this and it gathers momentum. Your energy starts to collect. It collects more and more, like water coming into a vase. And as this picks up, you start to feel this sense of fullness refreshment, pleasure. There's a physical a physical sensation of well-being that collects. As it grows, the next two factors of the first jhana arise. The first is píti, P-I-T-I, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Píti is rapture, fullness, refreshment. It's a physical well-being, often felt as tingling sensation, sort of like this electricity, this vibrance, this vibration, this vitality in the body. Okay? It has this sense of like healing and nurturing and feeding the body. This is pleasure that the Buddha called blameless. That's píti. Sukha is the other factor of the first jhana. I want to say these are subjective things, and the more you practice, the more you'll be familiar with what these factors mean, and it'll change for you as well. The more you practice, what píti feels like, what sukha feels like, will change. And so keep these. So these are just how I'm defining them, right? But you'll have to experience this for yourself. So sukha is a pleasure that is more refined, more stable than píti. So píti tends to move, sort of like a wind that moves through the body. You might feel píti flowing downwards or upwards or like outwards in all directions in the body. Sometimes píti will come like a lightning strike, like boom, you kind of shake. So, and so píti is it's less subtle than sukha. I wouldn't worry so much about this in the beginning stages here. You can think of píti and sukha as results of vitakka, vicara, and ekaggata. Okay, of directing and evaluating and coming to one meeting place. And remember, in vicara, in this evaluating or feeling, we're enjoying, and in the vitakka, in the directing, we're looking to enjoy more. We're looking to find more joy, more peace, more presence. Okay, this is the work to be done here. We're not just trying to be aware and not do anything else. We're actually trying to develop a skill here, the skill of meditation. So as you develop these beautiful qualities of píti and sukha, and if I didn't say that, I don't think I need to emphasize, these are beautiful resources. They are, I mean, it is just like, wow, there is nothing out there. You're not going to find anything like this out there in the world. This is This is at a different level than the happiness you'll find at a party or of acing your exam or making money or whatever. This is something really quite special. So yeah, keep directing and evaluating and adjusting and coming back home to this one place of here and now in the body. Píti and sukha will start to arise. Allow that to develop further. Now, so far, you might be wondering, okay, you haven't used the word mindfulness. You haven't used the word concentration or samadhi. So I'll talk just briefly about that. So mindfulness, or what's called sati in the ancient language of Pali, mindfulness, right? So sat from sati means presence. And we can think of mindfulness as the ability to stay present. Another word I like for it is recollectedness. We're recollecting. Okay, and then samadhi, normally translated as concentration, I like to think of samadhi as collectedness. I think collectedness is a very good translation for samadhi. So samadhi is a very wide territory of experience that includes the 8 jhanas, And samadhi is about collecting and gathering. Collecting and gathering. So very similar to ekaggata. And how do we do that? Well, the mind, we come here, right? We want to come here and now into the body. The mind wanders, then we collect it again. This is mindfulness. Mindfulness is staying present. But when you try to be mindful, what happens? The mind wanders, so you bring it back. You're recollecting yourself, coming back, being more and more present. That's mindfulness. That develops into samadhi. So mindfulness and samadhi are not in conflict with each other. They're totally aligned. Right mindfulness, samma sati, develops into samma samadhi, right concentration or right collectedness. Okay, now I want to read one of the similes that the Buddha gives for the first jhana. So there is the case where a monk, quite withdrawn from sensuality, withdrawn from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first jhana. Píti and sukha, here defined as rapture and pleasure, born from withdrawal, accompanied by vitakka and vicara, directed thought and evaluation. Okay, let me reread that. So there's a case where a monk, quite withdrawn from sensuality, so withdrawn from the senses, withdrawn from sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches and thinking, withdrawn from unskillful qualities. So these are qualities that lead to suffering. So this is a practitioner who's withdrawn from that. So he or she then enters and remains, so steps into and abides in the first jhana. Píti and sukha, rapture and pleasure, born from that withdrawal, is accompanied by directed thought and evaluation, vitakka and vicara. He or she permeates and pervades, suffuses and fills this very body with the rapture and pleasure born from withdrawal. There is nothing of his entire body unpervaded by rapture and pleasure born from withdrawal. So this is there's more that the Buddha says on this, but this is where I really want to focus. He or she permeates and pervades, suffuses and fills this very body with the rapture and pleasure born from withdrawal, the píti and sukha born from this withdrawal from the senses and unskillfulness. There is nothing of his or her entire body unpervaded by this píti and sukha born from withdrawal. So the reason I wanted to read this is there's so many meditators that are wondering, what should I focus on in my meditation? What should be the foundation? Should it be the breath? What does that mean? Does that mean the tip of the nostril? Does that mean the stomach or the belly? And there's a lot of different techniques, and many teachers have different ways of talking about this. My opinion here is that when the Buddha is describing the first jhana, this is very, very helpful instruction here. We want to permeate and pervade, fill, suffuse the entire body. So make this whole body the gathering place. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And real quick, keep doing this when you're not sitting. What you will come to understand if you practice in this way is that this instruction, this prescription here, leads to happiness. Okay, guys, it just leads to happiness, joy, wonder, amazement. This is taking control of your life. If you're not directing your mind is just bumping into random shit. Okay? And then you wonder why life is shitty. As Ajahn Lee says, a person without samadhi is like a boat without a dock. It's like a train without a station or a plane without a landing strip. There's no home. There's no place to land. And you're exhausting yourself because you're thinking about all this random stuff all the time. So start directing your mind to the whole body. Even when you're in a conversation with someone, Don't just be so focused on that person. Direct the mind to the whole body. Keep one eye open on the body. When you're working out, when you're cleaning, when you're working, when you're in a work meeting, when you're playing basketball or playing a sport, see what it's like to have this embodied awareness, this vitakka, vicara, ekaggata, while you're doing any of these activities. It's very interesting. This is a way to protect yourself from suffering. It's a way to develop the heart. It's a way towards pleasure, a profound pleasure and peace. So I wish you well. Good luck. May all beings share in the blessings springing from this teaching. By the power of these merits, may all beings find the happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddhang, Dhammang, Sanghang, Namasami.